Hello, my name is Patricia Bonadie, and today I'm going to be talking about the role of the clinical research nurse. So what is clinical research? Clinical research is the study of the safety and the effectiveness of all potential treatments for disease or devices or processes in the medical realm today. Unlike medical research, which uses test tubes in a laboratory, clinical research uses live volunteers. So that is the biggest difference in what is clinical research. We use live volunteers in the field. Clinical trials is a big part of clinical research. This is how we test new drugs or combination of drugs and devices or surgeries, new treatments or behavioral changes. Maybe there's a drug that we've been using for years, but we want to look at it for a new indication. A good example of that is everyone's familiar with Ozempic. It was a drug that was approved for type 2 diabetes. And then they found that it causes great weight loss. But it's not approved for that indication. It's approved for type 2 diabetes. So they have been writing it, what we say, off-label for weight loss for people with high A1C, but there needs to be more research. So they're quickly trying to get research through and completed so that they can get FDA approval to use this drug for weight loss, because if a drug is used for one thing, it cannot be used for something else, a different indication without FDA approval. So who oversees clinical trials? I think most people know that the FDA oversees clinical trials, but a lot of people don't know that the institutional review boards, or the IRB, also oversees clinical trials under the guidance of the FDA. So they're composed of 5 members, which include scientists, doctors, and lay people. It's very important because they have a very diverse group of people, and it's important because they protect the rights of disadvantaged people. They have very specific guidelines for people like pregnant women, people who are incarcerated, people with mental disabilities. In the past, there have been abuses against these disadvantaged people, so there are laws that have been written to protect this specific population. So it's very important that every document, the informed consent, has to be approved by the IRB before any potential study patient can be enrolled in a study. So the primary activities of the RN, the most important is the patient education. Before a patient can be enrolled, we talk to patients and educate them about their current disease process, why we want them enrolled, what are the eligibility criteria, why are they being asked to be enrolled in this study. We talk to them about the informed consent. Depending on the type of study, whether it's a drug study, device, behavior study, you can have different screenings, vitals, blood work, surveys. It can vary based on the type of study that's involved. But no matter what type of study, there's always going to be documentation. The necessary skills and ability. So nursing in general, always attention to detail. There's a lot of just the potential traditional nursing skills. Again, assessments, visual, sometimes hands-on assessments. Depending on the type of study, you may have to collect vitals, IVs, med administration, phlebotomy. You may have to do, you'll have to do documentation, electronic medical records in the source. These sponsors have their own database, so you'll have to enter there, and you also have to maintain paper source documentation. So you're actually doing double documentation. So having very, very, very detailed documentation so that when people come behind you, they're able to understand what actually happened. Education preparation. BSN is typically preferred. Good clinical practices, or GCP certification, is the gold standard in research. They expect GCP certification. IATA training certification is when you are transporting hazardous materials, like if you're shipping blood products, that's typically required. Depending on the type of study, you may need to have a BLS from the American Heart Association, CRC, or the Clinical Research Coordinator certification, or CCRA, is helpful to have. But typically when you have a BSN, it's understood that you have advanced administrative skills. And there are probably additional certifications out there as well. So who does the RN work with? The RN will typically will always work with the principal investigator for the study, which is going to be a medical doctor or a medical director. The RN may work with study coordinators, study sponsors, which would be the group that's paying for the study. It could be a pharmaceutical company, drug company, the device company. It could be a university that's sponsoring the study. It could be the Heart Association, again, depending on the study. Study sponsors may have monitors who they pay to oversee the study, to make sure that you're following all the protocols, to make sure that in case that all your books are in order, in case the FDA audits you, that all the books are ready for that and everything is in order. You could potentially work with doctors' offices, hospital staff to schedule procedures if you work with a study that requires OR time or things like that. So again, it depends on the study. Teaching and learning strategies. Working with patients, you always have to have good listening and therapeutic skills. Understanding the patient's concerns and addressing them. This may not be a good fit for them, and respecting that autonomy. Responding to those questions and really hearing what their concerns are. When you're dealing with research, you have a very limited ability in what you can say and do. You cannot be creative. Informed consent can be 30 pages sometimes, so you have to stick with the IRB approved informed consent. You cannot create your own documents. It's that way for a reason, so that the patient's rights are protected. So giving them that information, but also making sure that they get all the required information by law. I think what's unique and interesting about this role is that understanding that every drug, every device, every process in medicine today and in the future has been fueled by research. So understanding how vast that is pretty exciting. There's so many opportunities in this field, and I think it's very interesting and exciting if this is a field that you are interested in. It's just growing, and you'll never run out of opportunities. So I hope you found this very interesting, and if you are interested in learning more, I encourage you to get out there and learn more about the field. I think it's a great field to be in. Thank you for your time.